Hey y'all. Hey y'all. Happy Wednesday. I'm Taylor Chandler, licensed marriage and family therapist, personal development coach. I have a guest for us today. His name is Dr. L. I've been on. What is that? I don't know if y'all can hear that, but the sound started. I'm having all kinds of tech issues this evening, but I have Dr. L for us here tonight. I've been on his podcast. You may have seen him around the internet. He is a retired police officer, a current divorcee, and he is dating. He has two podcasts himself. He has a Dr. L podcast, which focuses on self improvement and modern dating. And he has Dr. L's Breakdown, which focuses on police and police related issues. He's also a co host on the Faith in Justice podcast, focused on community issues and seeking solutions to complex problems, which we absolutely need. So, y'all, without further ado, let's bring him on. Hey, Dr. L.
Hello. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. I'm glad to see you. I know we can just dive right in because it's you. So we can just get into it, right?
we could get right into it. Sure.
Let's go. We love give a little nutshell, like where are you at in the world? What are you doing? What do you do with work? And why are people listening to you?
So where I'm at in the world, well, I'm in the Northeast. I'm currently dating, although I'm kind of seeing someone in particular right now. I do what I do for work. I do some work for lawyers, although I'm trying to get out of that because it's inhibiting my travel time. So what I was doing was expert testimony work. So if anyone had a case where you thought the police acted inappropriately, I would be the one that you would call on, and I would look over the reports and things like that and see if the police acted within normal policies, procedures, etc. Also, I'm an adjunct professor at a couple of different schools, and that's what I do in my time when I'm not playing video games. So, yeah.
Okay, great. So you got a lot of community work. You got a lot, and you're both. It's like you're in the streets, all kind of streets. Like you're in the streets with work. You're dating, and I'm looking forward to hearing about your dating experiences. We're gonna go over some clips. We've got a clip from the It's Giving podcast. We've got a Ryan Davis clip that we're gonna look at. We're gonna look at a Willie Moore clip where he's with Lateris Whitfield. So we're going to cover a bit of ground. We'll be here for about 35, 40 minutes. Let's start with a clip. Because, I only know a bit about what you think about people getting married, essentially like the value of marriage. And I think you have I want to know about that, but also from your vantage point with where you're at, like being divorced. I think that's a factor in dating, like whether someone wants to get married or not, things like that I want to get your view on. So let me add this clip to the stage and then we'll talk about it.
Think marriage is valuable?
I think there are a lot of men that do want to get married, but I think the question is, do men with options want to get married? Men who are financially successful want to get married? I think that's the real question. A lot of times they view it as more of a business transaction. When you grow together, I think that's a whole different story. But if you're already successful, they're looking at, how do I protect this? Is this person in it for me? Well, I tell my wife this all the time. I say, if in another lifetime I was rich and successful and I had to find somebody, I think I would play a character of someone who didn't have much. Honestly, not even put my wealth out there to see if I could get a real connection with someone.
Well, and we as women naturally feel safer when you have monetary provision, as well as other provision. Like, we're not just saying money is enough, but money is important. I think that men get really upset about monetary success because they feel so judged by it. But it's the same way how a woman is judged by her beauty. And we could judge till we're arguing, we could argue till we're blue in the face. The truth is, those are, for most, the measuring stick. For men want an aesthetic. They want a beautiful woman. For women want safety and security, and that involves monetary provision.
So there was the part at the beginning that I wanted to hone in on, which was, I'm going to just a bit of a longer clip. So I'm going to just replay just this snippet.
I think marriage is valuable.
I think there are a lot of men that do want to get married, but I think the question is, do men with options want to get married? Men who are financially successful want to get married? I think that's the real question.
And that's the question that I want to start with you, Dr. L. This question around is marriage valuable? That's one question. But then, like, who is it valuable for? I think is another question. So, could you take it away? What are your initial thoughts on that?
Yeah, I thought it was a pretty good clip. I had not seen that before. You and I just watched it there. I do think that marriage is valuable, but I think it's valuable to younger people. And when I say
Mm-hmm.
younger people, I'm talking about those in their 20s and 30s because they want to have kids. Presumably, that's what they want to do is have
Mm-hmm.
kids. To an older person, and by older I mean 45 plus, um, presumably they've either had kids or been married, divorced, widowed, widower, etc. And so they might be looking at it in a different way. And if you have, particularly for men, because they are the breadwinners, although I understand that that's changing, if they got married, lost a lot of income or half the income or had to sell their house, etc., uh, is marriage valuable to them? And that
Mm-hmm.
is a struggle. That is a
Mm-hmm.
struggle. I've met a few ladies that just really a hardcore die hard. I want to get married. I'm like, you know, and I'm not one of those guys who was really bitter against it. I got divorced and I didn't lose anything. I got custody of the kids and all this other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I was really fortunate.
Mm-hmm.
But so I'm not speaking from a place of hurt. I'm speaking from a place of practicality. Why would I risk my finances again? I'm a retired guy. I got a pension. I got all this stuff going on, and now I'm going to risk it all. And depending on where you live and how the laws are written, what can I lose, et cetera, et cetera. But to me, it's like, why even take the gamble? Why even take the risk?
Mm-hmm.
Why even do it? So it's really going to depend on where a person is in life, what they want out of life, and again, what value does it bring to you? What value
Yeah.
does it bring to you? Because I want my whatever I do have, I want to go to my kids. So now I got
Mm-hmm.
to sign all this paperwork to offset the original marriage decrees and laws. People say get a prenup and all this. I got to
Mm-hmm.
sign all this paperwork to undo what should be done.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel it's an unnecessary burden. So.
I appreciate your honesty as always. You use the word that I think flags for a lot of women. I want us to dive into this a little bit more because I think this is so important. It's so important for us to understand where people are coming from. And I think when you hear someone say, what's the point of getting married? There can be some assumptions made about that, but then there's all this context. And you just laid out a lot of context as to why someone would not want to get married. You use the word practicality, like thinking about it from a practical sense. I think in general, of course, this is not everybody, but I do think in general, women, and I wonder for you, Dr. L, tell me what you think, because what are you experiencing with women who are older? Are women, even when they're older, is it still more of like a romantic idea of getting married? Or do you see any shift into the practicality where someone's more open to hearing like why I want it or why I would and having more of like a let's say rational conversation about whether we should even do this?
Yeah. So I've run into some who have talked about the romantic aspects of it, finding your
Mhm.
person, finding the love of your life, et cetera, et cetera. I've also run into some ladies who were very religious and just needed to be done. This is something that we do, and I just need to be in this type of relationship, particularly if we're going to be intimate. So
Mhm.
I run into those. Those are the two types that I run into for those who are really hard pressed. Like it's either marriage or nothing. So though
Mhm.
that's what I run into. So.
How do you manage that? Or have you in the past?
Well, it's been nothing. So, so I
Right.
mean,
Okay.
eh, marriage. This is a longer conversation. I really wish we could really dive into this, but marriage. You know, there's certain expectations that I have in marriage.
Mm,
And when those expectations aren't met, you are trapped in that marriage, and that's not something I'm going to allow myself to be trapped into again.
not a good word. Trapped. It's not
I
good.
know, and I
Yeah.
use it very sparingly, but I think it's accurate. Now, I'm not saying
Mm,
that the woman is intentionally trapping, but there's
mhm.
a sense of being stuck, of being unable to leave, and that is something that I don't want. Now,
Mhm.
you did a video the other day. You're talking about, some of the instances of, sitting around the room with some elderly women, hearing their experiences
Mhm.
about being married, and
Mhm.
rightfully so. The women who were abused passed on their um, thoughts about being with a man that you couldn't get rid of, and so therefore
Mhm.
they said, or couldn't escape from, more accurately. So they said, when to their daughters and granddaughters, don't be in a situation, get your own money, et cetera, et cetera. Well, I mean, the same goes for men too, because if you're in a marriage that's sexless or loveless
Mm.
or lack of affection and everything else that as a man, I'm going to come from the male perspective, that a man is looking for. I mean, who wants to sign up for that? I don't want to
Yeah.
come home and have to beg for food, beg for other
Yeah.
things.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
want to do that.
Yeah. It's really
So
not
yeah.
funny either. Yeah, I'm laughing, but it's not funny.
Yeah, it's not. And
Yeah.
yeah, well, I'll just leave
So
it there.
for, for you, because you were married before. So
Right,
what,
right.
and you specifically mentioned like the people in their 20s and 30s who want to have children. So do you think that is like for you, and do you even think for, let's say, men in general, is the idea of having children, like, do you think that that is the, I don't even know the word for it, like the thing that makes marriage like worth it, like valuable? Or do you see any other reasons why someone would get married from your perspective?
From a male perspective, no, I don't.
Mhm.
There may be
Mhm.
some, but I just haven't heard it. If it was
Mhm.
not for marriage, I mean, maybe from a religious aspect, because you're not supposed to have sex outside of marriage. So let's just say, people are infertile or whatever, and they
Mhm.
said, okay, we still want to get married for religious reasons. Okay, okay, I can actually probably get with that. But from a
Mhm.
male perspective, I mean, there's no reason for me to get married, because I want to build a legacy, and I
Mhm.
know that this is a growing sentiment. I've heard a couple of other, I don't know if you talked about it, but somebody else I heard was talking about this, that um I know who it was. I'm not gonna say it, but somebody else had said the same thing about, men are not, this idea of legacy is no longer going to work anymore to
Mhm.
get men to get for from a female perspective.
Mhm.
If you
Mhm.
if the reason we're going to get married is because the man wants to have legacy, then that's not going to be good enough. The woman in that particular case, what she was saying was that the women want emotional bonding and other things.
Yeah.
That ain't gonna work. That ain't gonna work for a lot of men. It may work for some men.
So
I don't have
interesting.
any numbers, but it ain't gonna work.
Yeah. This is so interesting. And was it the podcast that I was on yesterday with Montoya, the mental dialogues podcast? We were literally just talking about this yesterday about legacy and love. He made a comment about it, and we talked this very thing. And I said, this is one of these, uh, let's just say a gap between men and women right now around this thing that needs to be reconciled. Are you marrying for legacy, or are you marrying for love? And like you said, I think there are a lot of men who would say the same thing that you're saying, that the emotional, say like emotional attachment, emotional connection, the emotional experience, I think is the way that I'm talking about it right now. That just covers all of the emotional stuff in a relationship. The emotional experience is not prioritized for men, generally speaking, as much as it is for women. And women right now are pushing the gas on the emotional experience. They are pushing it. It's like men need to raise their emotional intelligence, raise their emotional maturity, raise the emotional standard for the relationship.
Mm.
So I wonder, and this, I think this is, maybe it's kind of linked into what we're going to talk about with these other clips as well. But do you have any ideas about how this is going to, I have two questions. How do you think this might be reconciled? And what's your forecast? What's your prediction for how this is, like, how this is going to play out in the near future?
So my forecast is that it's not going to work with the masculine men,
Mm-hmm.
because that is not something that I'm looking for in a relationship. Now,
Mm-hmm.
certainly, it would be nice if I walked into my house and my wife greeted me, "Oh, baby, I missed you," this, that, and the other. That would be great. I'm not saying that men don't want any type, or certainly myself don't want any type of emotional connection. That I think that's certainly necessary. But as far as marriage and intertwining, and when we talk about marriage, I'm assuming we're talking about intertwining our lives with the state. And so you're not going to get that. You're not going to get a lot of masculine men to sign up for that. As that clip you
Mm,
played before said, for men with options, you're just not going to get men to sign up for that. That's
mhm,
not a priority. And when they talk about here's where it goes into the second part, there is this emotional connection and this, that, and the other.
uh-huh,
That takes a lot of effort for men.
mm,
And I'm saying this as a man who has spent my time in male dominated spaces, be it the
mhm.
church, be it, well, it was male dominated, but not so much
You know,
anymore.
another conversation. Yeah.
I have a lot of male friends, obviously, and my
Mhm,
time in the police department. And I talked to these guys, right? We would talk to the fire guys, fire department personnel. We would just talk and just chop it up. And that is not a priority with them. And it takes a lot of emotional effort
mhm,
on the man's part to meet
mhm,
these needs. And
mm.
I'm going to say something that's going to be really crazy.
I
It
want to
can be
hear it.
torturous. It can be torturous
My
for
goodness.
to it can be torturous to listen to on a daily basis your day. Not saying it shouldn't happen, not saying that men shouldn't be
Yeah.
concerned, but
Uh-huh.
but listen, baby, I gotta tell you, my somebody stole my Pepsi. I had it in a refrigerator, and my boss did this, and the security guard didn't do that, and oh, can you
Mhm.
believe somebody parked in my spot this, and oh, I had a deadline. Okay. Because
Yeah.
men are fixers,
Yeah.
because men are fixers.
Uh-huh.
And if you're telling us this, we all the time we want to be able to fix the problem. Well, maybe park in a different place, or maybe take a different bus, or and if it's
Yeah.
just if we're just being used as an emotional sponge, just to kind of it's not going to. I don't see it working in the long term. So I think that
Okay.
you're going to have a hard time, in particular, from mature men who have substance, who have something, their own
Mhm.
homes, at least homes, cars, 401ks. Maybe they have their own kids. They've got their legacy, got their finances. They're not going to sign up for that. I,
You
I
know,
just,
I
I
think
just don't see it.
this is a definitely a layered conversation that has to continue because I know that there are women who are going to hear that depiction and think that's not what I'm trying to do when I'm saying. So I think we have to continue this conversation around what does it mean to be like emotionally present in a relationship, and we need more specifics around that so that men are clear. Now I do think that in some cases what you're depicting is absolutely happening, and that's totally
Oh, it's
exhausting.
absolutely happening.
Yeah, it's
it's
absolutely
it's
happening.
absolutely, and I'm glad that you said that, because whenever I press anyone about this, you can't get an
Mhm,
answer to it. And I am a very concrete,
mhm.
literal thinker. You
Yes,
got to tell me what you mean, and
yes,
I don't know what these nebulous terms mean. So you have to spell
yeah,
it out for me. So I'm glad you
yes.
said that.
So that's something that I definitely have to work that I work with clients on, is being very like essentially I help people, typically women that have this kind of issue where you need to be able to communicate. When you say that I want to be heard, you have to be able to walk someone through it as if it should be so clear as if they have a manual to you, like they know
Yes,
exactly what to do in order
yes,
to effectively help you to feel heard. You say you want to feel seen. How, practically speaking, what things actually need to happen that would help someone to feel seen? So I think there is a lot. It is definitely usually left really ambiguous, and that's frustrating. And then men often get labeled as being like emotionally immature when there's actually and then maybe that is the case, but sometimes it's not being articulated well enough for someone to follow the instructions, even if they wanted to.
right.
So I think that we have to get a lot more specific about what it means for someone to be like emotionally mature, emotionally present, and that kind of thing. Sometimes also what could be happening is like a woman saying that she wants someone emotionally present, and that just means like to effectively relay that you care at all, or that you have some level of empathy. And sometimes a man's hitting that mark, sometimes he's not. It's a big conversation, but I think this is an important one because it's coming up a lot. It's coming up a lot.
We are missing each other in this
Yes.
day and time. We are definitely missing each other.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
and you have articulated very well, because there is a certain level of frustration. And listen, if you don't give me the manual, I'm going to either going to build it myself,
Mhm.
and I'm going to miss you and what you need. And again, what I've run into is I just went by, I need to be heard and seen,
Mhm.
etc. Is just be there for me and just listen to what I'm saying. Okay. Well,
That's just
now we're back to being tortured.
so I appreciate you being real about this. We need to it's definitely highlighting this is a big gap between men and women, and it's a very vague issue that we need more clarity, more concreteness. And I agree, women cannot rely on these words that heard, seen, even loved. We need to be people. It needs to be clarified, like what needs to happen in order for you to feel that way consistently.
There's a clip of, I know you want to move on, but there's a clip of Tisha Campbell, who was the actress there, who was talking about this, that she had she had never felt loved her whole life. I'm like, you were in a marriage with Martin, whatever his name is, whatever his name is, and I'm like, what do you again? What do you mean? What are you talking about? This man never showed up
Yeah,
for you. He never held your hair back when you were throwing up in the toilet. He never.
yeah,
What are you saying?
yeah. It's incredible. I cannot stop talking about this because it's incredible. People will get wholly divorced and be like, and I've had men like as clients and even just knowing in life be like, I still don't know what she was talking about. Like when she said I wasn't doing this or that, it's like I was doing all these things, and you say I never saw you, and so there's just, I mean, the lack of clarity. Among other, I think probably we can name other things as well, but just the lack of clarity alone has such truly dire consequences. Like we cannot afford to just be throwing out these vague, like pop psychology words and think that it's gonna like actually create some kind of change in the relationship. So I want to move on to these clips around telling your partner the truth. Okay, because let's just play the clips.
Ask your grandfather, how does he stay married so long? He'll tell you, happy wife, happy life. Because she prioritizes happiness. Not once does that nigga say, keep it real with a young blood. They love that shit. Just be honest with her and everything will work itself out.
Yeah.
No, nigga, if she's happy, congratulations, nigga, you get to be married a little longer. That's how it works. And they get happiness. They get happiness, fellas, because they prioritize happiness. So make sure that they're happy. Because once they're happy, then in return, you still don't get happiness. It don't work like that.
Is that the okay? So let's hear.
Ask your grandfather, how does he stay married so long? He'll tell you, happy wife, happy life. Because she prioritizes happiness. Not once does that nigga say, keep it real with a young blood. They love that shit.
Initial thoughts?
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I mean, having been married, yeah, it's definitely a situation where you got to keep your wife happy. You can't tell her what happened in your day. You can't tell her about the toilet needs to be fixed and this, that, and the other. You just got to kind of do it and try to manage her emotions. And then they, to go back to the previous conversation, then have the nerve and the gall and the audacity to say that men are emotionally intelligent. I mean, we understand that if we don't keep you happy, then the whole entirety of the household can be upset. So men have gained this understanding that we have to tiptoe around in order to make sure that the house continues to function and that there's not pots and pans being slammed and etc. And some people are saying, I have a friend of mine, from the Faith and Justice podcast, who also does some Christian counseling. He talks about happy spouse, happy house. In other words, the man has to be as equally as happy as well. I think that. Listen, that's fine and all. We can talk about that, but the truth of the matter is, having been there, you got to keep that woman happy. And I'm not saying that in some symbology type of way. I'm saying that this is something that a man now has to get to the place where he says, my happiness, my contentment, my sanity, my peace is more important than bending over backwards and jumping over hoops to try to satisfy someone who may never ever be satisfied, because we now understand that the more you try to satisfy, the more steps you take, the more money you spend, whatever it is, there is no bottom to this. There is no, it never levels out. It'll always be something else. Always be something more, a bigger house, a bigger, spend more money on the cars. It'll always be some type of comparative
Hmm.
analysis going on here. So therefore I've adopted the mantra that, comparison is the thief of joy. So you have to keep it pushing, and men are now starting to prioritize themselves. And so if I'm going to be a 45 plus year old guy and I'm going to get married, I'm going to look at and say to myself, what am I going to have to do to keep her happy, keep her emotions, keep her in this even keel? Because we don't want to see our women in that situation.
I think women across the board have to just take these testimonies seriously. I think that women have to take these situations seriously, because when we're hearing enough people, and at this point, it's enough people that have about the same story, there's something going on here. So where I think that, I'm really big in the nuance of conversations. So I think that the woman who does not fall in that depiction is a very rare woman. And I find that the woman who isn't looking to her man to make her happy is a very purposeful, a very purpose-driven woman. And I don't think we're finding, we're not. I'm trying to be nice. Yeah, I try to be so nice on the internet, Doctor. I try to be so nice. But that is just not, that is not we're not anywhere close to that being, that at 51% of women are not there. And so that's when we start hearing the conversation like, well, your person can't be everything to you. And yet a lot of people, maybe inadvertently, a lot of women, especially then, typically not men doing this, it's typically women doing this, who are looking to her boyfriend, fiance, husband to be her entertainment, to be her fun, to be her hobby, to be her interest, to be the happiness for her. And it is truly an unwinnable game. It's not possible. It's just literally not possible for someone to produce those feelings for you in perpetuity. And it's like, I think we can have happy experiences with people. We can do something and we're both happy when we're doing it, but like, you are not my happiness. I don't even think women often even realize that they're doing it. I don't think that they even realize that they're doing it. I think men are more maybe on alert for that happening. And I think women are just kind of thinking that it's a part of the expectations of the relationship, and not even necessarily discerning that I am looking to you to produce an emotional experience in me that actually I'm responsible for.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. That was definitely well said. And I think the reason that men are sensitive to that is because when you come to us and tell us that you're bored, that means I have to stop what I'm doing and entertain you somehow. And that is unfair to me. I have a lot of hobbies. I enjoy what I'm doing. I'm never bored. And so, to have to come in there and be this be all end all, this entertainer, this person who listens to you and gives you advice and everything else that we talked about and everything else we mentioned, and look for everything to come from this one particular person. That's another thing that I've had to weigh out myself and say, why was it always fair for me to have to be this person that does everything? And I had to re-examine myself. And I need a woman who is self-sufficient, who is smart, educated, and can entertain herself, can go read a book, has a hobby. I mean, if you can't do those things, because I can't be your entertainment. I mean, I'm making podcasts. I gotta edit stuff. I gotta read a lot of things, right? To keep up with not only, being an adjunct professor, I got to read a lot. I have to, and then I'm doing these podcasts. I have to read, and that takes time. And I can't sit there entertaining you and watching movies all day. I just can't do that, So,
yeah. So when you're in your dating experiences now for you personally, does that even come up? Does this issue even show itself in dating for you? Or do you think that it comes after someone's more locked in and then in long-term relationship? Where do you see this issue showing up in the arc of a relationship?
I tend to show up early in my instances because it's I texted you, didn't text me back in a reasonable amount of
That's big.
time.
That's big.
And I started leaving my phone in another room because I get phone calls and text messages, and so
Mhm.
I can't get my stuff done. So I started leaving it in the other room. It shows up in, and sometimes they'll tell you, listen, I need a man who caters to me. I need a man who's there for me. I need a man who's going to listen to me. And those are all key and buzzwords to me. I'm not saying that I'm not going to listen or whatever, but it comes off as this neediness. It comes off as,
Mhm.
and again, like, what were you doing before we
Mhm.
met? I mean, didn't you have a life before? We just met last week, and now you want to have these
Mm.
kind of conversations. So it kind of causes some triggering aspects to me. And it's not one, because somebody says it one time doesn't mean I'm going to, stop talking to them. But eventually time goes on, needing to talk all the time. And
Mhm.
I've never been, I can remember being 14 years old, sitting on the phone in agony because I wanted to play some video games as a 14-year-old kid, or go to the park with my boys. And I got to sit on the phone. Right. So to me today, like,
Mm.
I'm in my 50s. Okay, just come over. I mean, why are we sitting on the phone? Just come
Mm,
over.
mhm, mhm, mhm,
Particularly after we've gotten to know each other in this particular place. So
mhm.
there's a lot that can be said about, how you can detect these types of things early on in the relationship.
It's interesting because I think this is really it's connected to the conversation, the earlier part of our conversation here tonight, because I can often when I'm having these conversations, I'm thinking about how people are hearing it, and I'm like, okay, this is what people are going to catch. This is what's going to kind of like flare up in someone, and I could hear how this can sound conflicting for women. So I want to get some clarity here. Because
Mhm.
if a woman's like, okay, I am sharing what I need, I am telling you that I need a man to text me back in this time frame. I am being specific. That's how I feel valued. That's how I feel prioritized. Right? Like, how can you any advice or wisdom for a woman in this case where she is articulating that what it is that she needs in order to feel all the things she needs to feel to be satisfied in this relationship, but then it's met with like, well, that's needy. Where how does she manage those two things?
Okay, that's a good question. I guess I'm assuming that we're not talking about the good morning text, right? With some women want that, some women don't want that. So,
Mhm.
or grand rising text or whatever. Um, so I can appreciate expressing your needs, and I think that
Mhm.
you have to express your needs. And I use needs very reluctantly because it's really just desires or wants. You're not gonna fall down and die if I don't text you back within 20 minutes or
Mhm.
whatever.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
so so I think that you can express them and leave it up to the individual as to whether they can meet it or not. And I think that now more than ever, as I talked about men and their happiness and what they need, are expressing themselves like never before and saying, listen, I can't do that. And even
Yeah.
my cousin, who is a little bit older than me, female, she said to me, "You got to tell these women you're not that guy. Yeah, I mean, you just got to tell them that." And so that I have kind of adopted
Mhm.
that. Listen, I'm just not that guy. I
Mhm.
I I I am work. A lot of times, people when I tell people what I do, and they recognize I'm retired and I can move around as I want. Right? Sometimes I just hang out. I lay down, take naps at 11 o'clock. I do what I want.
Mhm.
Right? So they interpret that as saying, "Well, he's not doing anything. Let me just call him up and just text him all day." No, no. I'm doing
Mhm.
what I want to do, number one. And number two, I do actually work. I have to, again, correct papers and do other things and read and whatever. So therefore, uh, this is a long way of saying you have to put you have to put it out there what you want, desire, and what make
Mhm.
you feel connected, and let the
Mhm.
man decide what he's going to do. And again,
Mhm.
let me just end this off with if the man decides if this is not the man for you, then you just got to kind of leave it there. Men are
Mhm.
saying, this is what I need, this is what I want, and here's how I'm moving in the world. And particularly for the successful men, this is how I'm moving in the world. I'm not going to be at your beck and
Yeah.
call for every text message. I'm not going to be
Yeah.
at your beck and call for every phone call. I'm just not going to be there in that way. I'll meet you when I can meet you. I'll do what I can
Mhm.
and do. But this other type of thing, if you need 20 phone calls a day. I was dating a woman one time, and she would call me every single break. Oh, listen, I had 10 minutes. I just wanted to call you. I'm like, come on
Mhm.
now. Come on now.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Putting it out there, and seeing where he is able to meet that or not, and then you as the woman need to determine if you can how you're going to manage that gap if there is a gap. I think that to the point about purpose and a purpose-driven woman, and maybe a woman just that has more things going on and something she really cares about. I think there are a lot of women that don't. Now, this is going to contradict the majority narrative out there, but we're just going to say it. I got to work on not being so nice on the internet and just saying some things. But this goes against like the majority narrative or the prevailing narrative that there are so many like successful women that just have a bunch of things going on. I don't think that is necessarily the case, or you might have a lot of things going on, but it's not really meaningful to you as a woman. And so then if you don't know what it's like to be engaged with really meaningful work, you might have a lot of work going on, but it might not be really meaningful work, really like purpose-driven work. It's hard, I think, for women to relate to a man who doesn't necessarily need a bunch of meaning in his work, but he's doing a lot of work. Where women, if it's not meaning in their work, they're looking for meaning. Let me try to be clear. I don't know if I've ever made this point before, so I'm trying to get my words together. Women are looking for meaning. I don't think they are looking for meaning as much. They're doing a lot of work, and it doesn't necessarily need to be this like heart-driven work. When women are
Well, I think the men would get their meaning in work. I think the women are looking for meaning through connection. So women are maybe working, but it's not meeting their emotional needs. Men are getting their needs met through work. I enjoyed being a police officer. I enjoyed there's people out there who enjoy being construction workers. I'm talking about men. Enjoy being truck drivers. They enjoy it. This is it. I'm free to roam the road.
I guess what I've heard a lot is that men would do something because it essentially like fulfills a practical function. Like it's not necessarily like it doesn't necessarily need to be like like maybe like heart rooted in like who my identity or my heart or some like bigger thing. That's sort of what I'm saying.
Yeah. No, I understand what you're saying, and I still agree with I'm agreeing with what I said, and that if they don't do it through their work fulfillment, then they also would have hobbies. So a lot of guys tinker with cars or whatever. So that type, and again, whatever it is that they're doing, it still would not be meeting some type of longing, emotional type of need. And I think that's a grand difference in how men and women just are different. Some guys just enjoy bass fishing and whatever. They just enjoy that thing. And that makes them, when they're not at work, that makes them feel whole and fulfilled. They don't have to sit around walking around with their women in the mall holding their purses while she goes and tries on dresses. That's just not what men are designed to do, particularly masculine.
Yeah. So all humans search for meaning, but I'm talking specifically in work. It might not necessarily be in work. Okay. So if women don't have meaning in their life, if they're not finding it, then most of the time they are looking for it through the relationship. And
I agree. And I think that this is one of the big things that women are missing is this type of familial relationship, whether it's with their children, because a lot of them are putting off having children, and or not partnered up in some way. So they're missing that. So they're craving that, where it's not so much in men. So I definitely agree with you. I think we're on the same page with that.
Yeah, we are definitely hearing that. So essentially there's like an appetite for that like depth of connection that like to plug into something. Women want to plug into something. It's not a bad thing at all. That's just like in our nature. And so then when you're trying to plug into your man and he doesn't have that same, the plugs aren't the same. He's not trying to plug into you like that. And so then
maybe later on in the night.
Well, yeah. So you're not playing the circuit. So then there can be offense taken.
Right.
And when he's not approaching the relationship that way, or even seems like as happy to be walking in the mall holding your hand, because like that's not necessarily that's not where a lot of men, particularly a masculine man, is going to be getting his like meaning and happiness from.
Agreed,
And
100%.
it's a misunderstanding. It's a big
And
misunderstanding.
I often think about, and I've read I'm no evolutionary psychologist, by trade or anything, but I read a few things, and I think about the times on the plains of Africa or wherever people, ancient peoples were living, and the men were off in war, men are off hunting big game, men were off doing, whatever. And if we came home at night and sat by the campfire, told some stories, right? There was no need for all this constant communication between them. We just understood what it was. And so now that this new thing has arisen within modern society that is really causing us to have these conflicts. Well, you ought to be meeting these needs. Why? Because no longer sitting around the campfire, no longer the women are no longer engaged with other women, sewing baskets or hunt or doing the gathering while the men doing the hunting, right? So this we're at a conflict here, and it's growing. Women are now engaged in more out of the home activities, bossing up, CEOs, etc. But they still have that longing inside of them for this deep rooted connection, where the men, on average, don't.
Let's move on to the next clip. Last clip here, y'all, and then we'll start to wrap up.
What is the underlying thread that you always see as it pertains to people who have got a divorce? What is the underlying thread that you always see as it pertains to people who have got a divorce or just going through it in their relationship? What's missing?
Communication. People don't feel like they have a safe space to actually say that which they desire. A lot of people just afraid to just say it. They be like, man, if I tell her, she's going to trip out. If I tell him, his ego may be bruised. And if people can literally sit down and have conversations, be like, this is what I need, and tell that person that, and that person be able to receive it and say, let's love you from a sacrificial standpoint. It can't be about because when I look back over my past marriage, I was looking back at what I wasn't getting, but I never thought about what I wasn't giving her. I kept saying, you don't do this, you don't do that. And I still never articulated that to her. We had a great friendship, but we didn't have the safety of communicating what we needed.
What do you think is contributing to this inability to just tell the truth to each other? And do you think it's an equal issue? Because Terrace kind of puts it out there like it's a both thing. And do you see it that way? And what do you think contributes to the issue there?
I do think it goes both ways. I think that for a long time, women have never been able to express, whatever was bothering them about their men for various reasons. And I think the men, as we talked about before, want to keep their wives happy. So they didn't tell them the truth, pretended it as if everything was okay when everything was not. So I think it goes both ways. It's difficult. It's difficult to be in marriage. I don't often quote the founding fathers of this country often, but I did hear a quote by Benjamin Franklin says, when you are in a marriage, when you're about to get married, you should have both your eyes open or something like that. Both of your eyes open. And once you get in marriage, you should have one of your eyes closed, right? So now, so you have to kind of overlook a lot of things, I think was his point. So I can definitely see that, because you're in a situation. I know you didn't like the word trap that I used, but you're in a situation.
Oh, I was fine with the word trap. I hear when I hear trigger words, I'm like, okay, I want to hear someone's going to catch that. Yeah.
Right. So we're in this situation, and you can't just leave, and you're in it again. You're tied up legally and entangled through your children and through finances, and it's not easy to rip those apart, and nor should it be easy. I certainly lament my divorce, and I really wish that it wouldn't have happened. But yeah, communication is difficult in a marriage. It's difficult to say things, and no matter how hard we try to articulate ourselves, no matter how slow we speak, and no matter if we say we understood, you come back a day later, a week later, and be like, I didn't like this, or I didn't like that, or I didn't like your tone. The whole Kevin Samuels things. I didn't like his tone. Okay, So communication is a difficult. I've made 2 videos about communication, and I didn't release them because I didn't feel like as if I was communicating it correctly, because it's so hard to say, what we have already talked about in this show. And I know, and as you're absolutely right, people are going to hear it a different way. They're going to say that this guy's a monster. This guy don't want to talk to nobody. He don't want no intimate relationships. I don't know how many women have said that, looked at videos that I've made and said,
Mhm.
you don't really want a relationship. That's not what I said. That's not what I said. It's not what I meant, not what I inferred. I mean, I want them. I'm just saying it's difficult to communicate some things, and the level of intimacy that a woman desires is not the same that a man desires. So to communicate this, whatever it is in a marriage, about finances, about sex, about household chores, how we deal with the kids, religion, all of that is difficult conversations because you don't want, and in particular, again, men are very sensitive because they don't want their woman to feel as if she is attacked. I'm not attacking your cooking skills. I'm not attacking anything else. I'm simply saying that I need more or whatever it is.
What about? I'm going to do a what about, and I usually don't. I'm going to do a what about right now. I don't want to flip it because often definitely the defensive woman is a problem. I have talked at length about this. I'm going to be talking about it till the end of my career, most likely. Okay. The defensive woman is definitely an issue. I do not think that the defensive man is addressed enough. That's my opinion. I don't think the defensive man is addressed enough. What do you even think about that? Do you like that profile of a man who's defensive? Because I know there's a woman that's listening to this saying, it's not me, it's when I say something to him, hey babe, I really want to go on a date this month. We haven't been on a date in the last 3 months, and he shuts down, or he thinks that I'm criticizing him when I'm just trying to address something. Anything around like the defensive man? Do you see it the same way, or?
I would say the same thing, that the man needs to work on that, and it needs to be pointed out, maybe through a third party, through counseling or something like that. But yeah, so I'm not unaware or sensitive to the fact that there are men out there who don't know how to take criticism, critique. And if you haven't taken your woman, to use your example, if you haven't taken your woman on a date in 3 months and she brings it up, a man could feel as if that was an attack on his manhood, his masculinity, or his finances, right? So there's a lot of things that could be going on in his mind.
Yeah.
And so there has to be a certain tact in how it is addressed. And men have fragile egos as well. Men have fragile egos, and if they don't feel as if they are somehow meeting some standard of masculinity or manhood or husbandship, then they're going to feel attacked. And so that it's going to take tact on the woman's part to say, hey, here's what we can do to to make this. And I can understand that there are women who are very reluctant to talk to their men about certain items. Yeah.
So the defensiveness is definitely a big wall for people that prevents honest communication. Do you think, like Lateris was talking about in the clip, are there any other things that you can point to that you think contribute to that problem? Because I think this issue creates a whole, he mentioned his divorce. These issues create whole divorces when there is not clear, open channels of communication between the two parties, husband and wife. Aside from defensiveness, do you think that there's anything else that in particular that specifically, or rather to say particularly, that makes conversation particularly challenging?
So we have communication being open and honest. I think that harboring, this would go into communication, is harboring past wrongs from a previous relationship, or even things that happened early on in that particular relationship. And if you can deal with those things, because misunderstandings are going to happen, and if you just sit on it and never confront it, it's going to continue to grow. And so it takes tact, it takes skill, it takes practice. And again, if you need a third party, be it a pastor, be it a friend, be it counseling services, etc., that have those difficult conversations. If the relationship is worth having and saving, there's no reason. Well, there are reasons, but it really should be a dwindling phenomenon that divorces are happening because we don't have communication. That is one thing that is, we're trying to get out into the open, is how to communicate with each other. And so, so I think that's really, really huge, is not harboring pains from previous conversations, traumas, etc.
I totally agree. Resentment is that emotion that comes with that. And resentment is a silent killer. It's like carbon monoxide. You can't see it. It's not, it's like, it can be sneaky, it can be silent, it can be, things can literally be going on as if nothing is wrong. Now, sometimes you might get a little, like, you know, a slam door or something, but things can go on as if nothing is wrong. And that's when we get the stories at the end where it's like, I thought we were good, but the resentment was building underneath this silent, sneaky killer of relationships. So that comes from, in short, harboring negative feelings and offense, really, being offended by the other and not coming to resolve about that thing, and essentially forgiving. We got a big forgiveness and grace issue going on. Like you said, Dr. L, totally agree. The misunderstandings are going to happen 100% with everybody, no matter how compatible you are. And if you do not have, the way that I would put it is, I'm quite pragmatic about things. The way that I talk can be sort of systematic, which I think everybody should adopt because it works. But if you don't have a system of working through those negative emotions, you're going to get stuck it's going to bottleneck. The relationship is going to get constricted, and you'll get stuck, and the negative feelings won't have a way to process out of the relationship. I know a lot of people don't have a system, like an emotional and mental system for working through those things, and so it just builds up, and then people end up all the way divorced.
Yeah. No, I definitely think that's important, to have a system, to have a frame of thinking. Do some reflective work. I've talked to a lot of people who don't do reflective work.
Yeah.
Obviously podcasts like this, obviously reading some books, just some self-growth development, and just looking at yourself, and before you point the finger at anyone else, this is always a mantra of mine. Before you point the finger at someone else, understand and look at yourself and see, what did I do wrong? And be honest with yourself. Honesty with yourself is very, very important. I didn't have to yell when I said this. Did I have to approach her when at this particular time? I know the kids were crying. Did I have to do X, Y, and Z? So if you can be honest with yourself about that, we can save a lot of marriages. Yeah.
That is so good. That is wise advice. That is so good. Responsibility and accountability, it really cannot be understated. I have one question for you before we wrap. This thing about this particular topic, this thing about being honest, and we know that I really do believe that, I believe the truth sets you free. I believe that to be honest as quickly as possible is the best way forward. No matter how hard it is, it's just like a philosophy. It's a principle that I live by, because it's just, as quickly as you can get honest and the quickly as you can be in the truth, the quicker you can move forward, the more effectively you can move forward. When it comes to dating, what would you tell people, like, even maybe based on your own experience? I think it's difficult for people in early stages to be that honest, because for all kinds of reasons. I think mainly because you don't want to maybe scare the other person off. You don't want to seem too demanding. You don't want to seem too difficult. Men and women, can have difficulty being honest. How can someone who is dating take this idea of honesty and integrate it into dating in like a reasonable way? Like, because you might not come out the gate just telling someone exactly what you think and feel about everything about them, or maybe you do. I mean, what do you think about that? How does someone manage that?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I think it takes a lot of nuance, because you don't want to, put everything out there on the table all at once, here's my political leanings or whatever, So I think it's going to take I would say be yourself, and just kind of go with the flow. And if there comes a controversial topic, say it as thoughtfully as you can. I would say say it, express it as thoughtfully as you can. It's not going to be easy. Everybody's not going to be for you. Everybody's not going to align, and just be willing to go with that. I think that's one thing that people have, both sides, men and women, have suppressed for a long time. Women wanted to be in a relationship so bad that they just overlooked some things, and men wanted to be in a relationship so bad because they wanted to either sleep with this woman, or they wanted to just be married or get off the market, or whatever, or they wanted some kids or whatever. And so you end up overlooking some things that you really should not have overlooked. So again, I think that honesty is still the best policy. I think it's the best way to go. But be tactful in how you approach it. Some people need that. Somebody put in the comments about something about a code of conduct. Yeah, we got to develop a code of conduct about how we talk to each other, how we meet, what's on the table, what's off the table. I think all those types of things are important, are essential. But yeah, honesty to me is what it is. The honesty to me is what it is, because you don't want to waste time. You don't want to lie to people. You don't want to say you like this and you don't really like it. You say you don't. I mean, I could listen. I was married. I could tell you some stories. Why I never really liked that. Why am I hearing this 3 years later? Yeah.
Honesty is the best policy. This is so good. You have really, as they say, dropped a lot of gems here tonight, Dr. L. I certainly appreciate it.
Coming from you, I take that as high praise.
Thank you. Any last words of advice, or just anything you want to say to listeners, to viewers that are going to catch this replay? What do we need to know?
Well, first you need to follow me on Dr. L's podcast, Dr. L's Breakdown, Faith and Justice. All those are all podcasts that I'm on. Make sure you subscribe and like to this channel as well. Taylor Chandler, I think she's doing some phenomenal work.
Thank you.
In the dating game, it's changing a lot. For the Gen Xers such as myself. The issues that we are having, and the things that worked before. I made a video talking about singing in the rain and going through the desert and all these different videos that I watched in the 90s. That ain't working. That ain't working today. Social media, as we all know, has changed the game. Dating apps have changed the game, and with that, the behaviors, attitudes, and expectations of the other person. And if you cannot meet those, if you do refuse to meet them, then just stand on that. Just stand on it. Be yourself. Talk about honesty and truth. Be truthful to yourself. And if you can't meet these expectations, and if you think they're outrageous, then just move on. There's no need to belittle people, to be mean, to be nasty, or anything like that. But just set your expectations where they are. Keep them reasonable, keep them rational, and just be the best version of yourself. And everything that you say, and everything that I started off my channel, Dr. L's podcast, was talking about is men getting out there and becoming the best versions of themselves. Do the healing, do the therapy, read the books, look at yourself, analyze yourself, and go from there. Because you can't enter into a relationship and bring anything to someone else. Or you can bring something to someone else, but you want to make sure that what you're going to bring to someone else is positivity and knowledge and wisdom and leadership and command presence and wisdom and honesty and integrity. Bring all those types of things.
Very good. Very, very good. Thank you so much, Dr. L, for your time. Certainly appreciate it. I know we'll continue to be in touch. Follow his work, y'all, the Dr. L podcast, Faith and Justice, his other podcasts that he's a co-host on. And we will see you all very soon. Thanks, y'all. Night.